Hello everyone, welcome to Module 3. This module explores racism and white privilege. As you read in the Sue reading, race talk often makes people uncomfortable. It pushes people's buttons, and many try to avoid it altogether. In Module 1, we looked at microaggressions, and taking a colorblind approach is a form of microinvalidation. Colorblindness is defined as the belief that race should not matter and that we are all the same and that we should not discuss race. By staying colorblind, we avoid acknowledging the existence of systemic racism in society. Sue talks about the history of the U.S. being a melting pot. You will explore this further in your first paper, where you will analyze the documentary The House We Live In, and the melting pot is mentioned in the film. The melting pot in the U.S. refers to when immigrants adopt American culture and let go of their own home cultures. This is called assimilation, something we will explore deeper in the next module. Sue describes the melting pot as cultural genocide. Immigrants were essentially forced to assimilate as a route to getting U.S. citizenship. And this you'll see in the documentary, The House We Live In. There are a number of terms related to racism. Racial prejudice is an attitude, opinion, or feeling, usually negative and based on stereotypes, and often formed without a personal experience about people of color or white people. Children often acquire stereotypes and prejudice from their parents. Bias is a related term, and it can be conscious or unconscious prejudice against an individual or a group based on their identity. Prejudice and bias are both attitudes, whereas discrimination is an act. A failure to treat all persons equally, where no reasonable distinction can be found between those favored and those not favored, and it is considered a tool of oppression. Racism is made up of prejudice and discrimination, but there has to be one more thing. Can you think about what that is? Racism equals prejudice plus power. As you saw in the video about reverse racism being a myth, not everyone can be called a racist, but everyone has biases. When developing cultural humility, we need to acknowledge our biases. Our biases come from our upbringing, but we need to be aware of them to work and interact equitably with others. So, to be called a racist, you need to be a member of the dominant society and exhibit prejudice and discrimination. So a white person can be racist towards a person of another race because of white privilege and the societal power they possess. A person of color can be biased against a white person, but because only white people are privileged in our society in terms of race, a person of color cannot be racist, but they can be biased against white folks and even members of other racial groups. This can be confusing because of the frequent use of the term reverse racism in everyday life. Now let's turn to white privilege, something that makes white folks very uncomfortable, and it has to do with the word privilege. So white privilege is not about income status. It is not about how hard you worked in school and in your career. It does not mean you didn't earn what you worked for. And it doesn't take away from your own personal struggles. But let's see what white privilege is. Just by virtue of being a white person of any kind, You are part of the dominant group, which tends to be respected, assumed the best of, and given the benefit of the doubt. That just isn't the case for people of other races, no matter how wealthy, smart, or hardworking they might be. All of this results in white people having greater access to power and resources, which perpetuates inequity. Let's reflect on the video that went viral about Christian and Amy, who met for the first time in Central Park. This occurred during the pandemic. I was in Central Park the week before this occurred, in the same area, and I remember seeing the signs that dogs had to remain leashed, as I had a dog with me at the time. I have seen this video numerous times, and it doesn't get any easier to watch how Amy interacts with Christian, and even how she handles her poor dog. When we look at the dynamics of this incident, we see that Amy made several assumptions. What are they? Well, she assumed that the police would believe her story, that she, a white woman, was innocent, and that Christian, a black man, would be presumed guilty. In society, usually white people are believed. She weaponized her whiteness and societal perceptions of women as victims, and she exploited deeply ingrained white fears of black men. She knew that any confrontation with the police wouldn't go well for him. Christian had the presence of mind to record what happened. I don't know what I would have thought of if I would have thought of that in the moment, and I know that I wouldn't have had to do that to protect myself because of the color of my skin, and that is white privilege. So let's take a few minutes to engage in CLCBE. Reflect on the feeling that you're having right now and how intense is it on a scale of 1 to 10. Reflect on where in your body do you feel it. Be specific, right? Here on your neck, shoulders, sometimes we get stomach aches, right? Then, what self-talk and what images are coming in your mind right now as you're thinking about what you're experiencing? And then we're going to breathe in and breathe out together. So you're going to breathe in for 5. Ready? Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. As always, I look forward to reading your journal entries.